Welcome to the We're Good podcast, where we are celebrating the everyday brilliance of people working toward a more positive world. If you're looking for the good that's taking place around you, you've come to the right place. What if you couldn't explain what hurt to a doctor, or you couldn't read your child's note from their school teacher, or navigate a grocery store? What if every single day you felt like an outsider in your very own community?
Many students are come here alone. They have no family or friends. They can't talk to their neighbors.
Today on the We're Good podcast, you're about to hear how the English Empowerment Center is helping thousands of people in our region learn the English language and use their voice. And we'll dive into our big question: why does teaching English to immigrants help us all better connect? This episode of the We're Good podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia, an organization building a region that works for everyone. With deep local roots and mission-driven collaboration, they are making more possible across Northern Virginia. Welcome back to the We're Good podcast. I'm Lee Ann Necessary Brownlee, your host, and I'm so excited to be joined in studio today by an amazing organization that has been helping people and actually, I'm going to say it, changing lives for 64 years here in the Northern Virginia region and beyond, because there's a ripple effect, and that is the English Empowerment Center. Joining me today is, I'm so thankful to have you both here with me. Thank you so much. Our Executive Director, Roopal Mehta Saran, thank you for being with us. And Kathleen McCleary, who is a novelist and an author and a passionate volunteer teacher. I say volunteer teacher, but I really think those go hand in hand.
Yes, they do.
I really appreciate you being here. And both of you have some amazing stories to share and some journeys of how you found the English Empowerment Center. Roopal, we want to start with you though. When you and I were talking earlier, you shared some statistics that really, when I started telling people about this upcoming episode, they were like, wow. And some of those is, first of all, you have students from, I want to get this right, 90 countries.
Yep.
And how many languages?
They speak over 50 languages.
50 languages.
I know. I can't even name 50 languages.
That is amazing. And some of the statistics, just in Fairfax County alone, you were saying 7% are living in linguistic isolation. We're going to talk more about what that is. And also, 50% of the students in the Fairfax County school system come home to a home where English is not the first language. And so I think when you combine all of these statistics, it really paints a picture of your why. But you're here to tell us, and I want the audience to listen in, why this is so important for all of us to know about the English Empowerment Center.
Well, the mission of our organization is to teach the basics of reading, writing, speaking, and understanding English to adults whose English is at that first level, or what we say the 6th grade level or below, so that they can access more employment opportunities, educational opportunities, and really more fully participate in our community. We know that by learning English, it is so much more than vocabulary and grammar. Learning English allows our students to talk with their supervisors, but also to speak with their children's teachers, to share symptoms that they may be having or their children are having to doctors, and really being able to participate in their schools, their communities, their jobs.
As you said, and that linguistic isolation, is that it? Is that what you see with your students? And you have 2,000 students.
That's right.
So
Yes.
you're changing the statistics.
Absolutely. No, we do serve over 2,000 students a year, and our students collectively are the parents of over 2,000 children. So we really do like to say that not only are we impacting the 2,000 adults in our programs, but their families. Linguistic isolation means a person that really in their day-to-day doesn't have too much of a need to speak English or to speak a language other than their own. So you might imagine a restaurant worker who is living with their family members who speak the same language as them, and then at work, perhaps working in the back of the kitchen or in the kitchen, also speaking with colleagues and other staff members who are speaking in their same language. So day in and day out, year after year, they are not really needing to speak English because their day-to-day work doesn't require it.
So this changes, though, as you said, as you become part of a community and you have children and you have relatives. Who is coming, looking for help with the English Empowerment Center? What are some of your stories?
I mean, our students, some of them have less than a 6th grade education, and some have college and advanced degrees. Some of our students have lived here for weeks and months, and some of them have lived here for decades. They really do share the same goals of coming up with a way to make themselves more able to take advantage of the opportunities that are here in this country, in this area, to make sure that they can take care of their families and really to thrive.
Yeah. And speaking of thriving, you do it. You do all of this through wonderful volunteers and teachers. How many teachers do you have, and how many?
Last year, we had over 600 volunteers who gave over 27,000 hours of service. As you can imagine, we cannot do this work without their help. We are otherwise 19 staff members.
Okay, so it's amazing. And so one of those is Kathleen, and you just had a passion to welcome people in. And you said by doing so, when you and I were talking earlier, you said by becoming involved, you didn't realize the amazing stories, journeys, friendships that you would see.
Yes, and the students just, one of the nicest things, it's not just helping them in their own communities, but many students are come here alone. They have no family or friends. They can't talk to their neighbors, and yet they form a community in the classroom. And they make friends in the classroom. And I have seen friendships formed. I had a young man from Cambodia and a man from Russia, and they became fast friends in class. And I saw them a year later. They were playing tennis together whenever they could. So that makes a huge difference. And even just last week, one young man was talking about how he had to come to this country alone, which he was lucky, he felt, to be able to emigrate, but that he was unlucky because he was here all alone. And a young woman in class who's from Jordan cried out, "Oh, Tayara, you are not alone, you have us."
Oh.
So that's very gratifying to see.
It is. And also you were telling me that some of the things you've seen happen in the classroom, particularly you were talking about a surgeon.
Yes, I had one man who was a skilled surgeon in his home country. He was from Bolivia, but had come here and didn't yet know the English he needed in order to have a career in medicine here. So he was working very hard to learn English. And in the meantime, he was working in construction in order to support his family. And I have a doctor visit the class once a semester to role play with the students so they get some experience talking to an actual doctor. And this student of mine, Rodolfo, was the first to arrive. And the doctor who was visiting the class, I introduced them and said, Rodolfo's a surgeon in his home country. And the doctor who was visiting class said, "Oh, well, it's so nice to meet you, doctor." And Rodolfo, you could just see his whole demeanor change as he had someone in this country acknowledge who he was and treat him with the kind of respect that he longed for. And he just left that class walking taller that night, and it was really wonderful to see.
That's wonderful. And can you give us an idea, Roopal? I'm sure you hear lots of these stories, but you yourself were sharing your journey, and that is that you are a proud daughter of immigrant parents. Can you share with us, when you hear this, what that feels like for you and your journey to the English Empowerment Center?
You know, it makes me think a lot about how much more than learning English we do. My parents came to this country from India, and they came with a lot of education and could speak English. But it definitely took time for them to assimilate, to feel comfortable, to understand how to follow directions or how to find things or how to understand what resources were available in this country. So this has really brought home to me the fact that learning English is not simply to communicate, but it is about this feeling of belonging. And what we are able to allow our students to gain or to empower them to gain is this feeling of being able to take advantage of what this country has to offer and also to feel like they belong here.
And to give back as well, right? Because you were saying that you have started a wonderful program called Destination Workforce. And so tell us about Destination Workforce, because that just takes this, I would think, one more step.
So we offer a variety of different programs. So beginning English is kind of what you would imagine. And then we offer a family learning program. Our family learning program is for parents teaching them English, but in the context of helping their children in school. about 10 years ago, it was clear to us that we really needed to focus on teaching English for the purposes of helping our students in the workforce. So we've developed kind of a wide suite of classes. Some are with employers who say, you know what, I'd really like to support my employees in learning English because I think it will make us all better workers together in this place of employment. We also have classes that help students with resumes and interview skills and how to do job searches and how to do job searches online, even a little bit of how to use AI in thinking about how you want to present yourself and what your elevator pitch may be. But in general, Destination Workforce is this series of classes that are really focused on helping our students get jobs. As we know, so many of them are coming to us with an interest in learning English so that they may be able to get a job or a better job.
That's wonderful. And of course, you were saying, Kathleen, that you had an example of that. You were just sharing with us right before the podcast.
Yes, I have a student named Anna who's been in this country, I think, close to 20 years. And she worked in a restaurant in McLean, actually in the kitchen where all the workers spoke Spanish. So she never learned English. And she started taking classes with the English Empowerment Center. And she really struggled with English. It does not, languages don't come naturally to her. But she stuck with it, and then she lost her job. And because she didn't speak English, it was harder to find one. But the English Empowerment Center also does some wonderful career advising, and we have a counselor who comes to the classroom who talks to students about their goals and gives them ideas about where they can connect with various resources to help them pursue those goals. And they connected Anna with a program in Arlington called Kitchen with a Purpose. And she took a program there to be certified in cleanliness standards for working in a kitchen and got a job at Goodwin House and is ecstatic. Everybody there speaks English. So she's had to really up her English. One of the young men in the kitchen, who's a native English speaker, said he was going to practice with her and help her learn Spanish. And she is just thrilled. She now has a job that offers her benefits for the first time. And she sees a real path for, growing and having a lot of security in this country that she didn't have before.
A wonderful story. And and you said you found out about that through an essay?
Yes, the students write essays every year to express what they feel they get from learning English. And it really is remarkable. I had them brainstorm to start. How did you feel before you knew English? And they said scared, shy, not confident, afraid. I mean, a lot of words, really difficult. And I said, and how did you feel once you learned English? And they say confident, kind, friendly, happy. It makes a huge difference in their lives, just in the confidence level. Mm-hmm. And they all say people here are very kind to them. I mean, they overwhelmingly. I did a lesson where I asked them to talk about luck and whether they thought they were a lucky or an unlucky person. Almost the entire class said, I am lucky because I get to live here in the United States. They feel that is really the best thing about their lives. And so to be able to help them feel welcome and successful here really makes a difference.
How does that make you feel as the
director? How lucky am I that I get this privilege of working in this community, working with really committed people who care so deeply about our newcomers and or people who've been here for decades, but people who are not born here, and to make sure that we recognize them for all the amazing things that they bring to this community.
Exactly. And as far as talking about teachers, because obviously you have an outstanding one here, you can tell she's dedicated. But that is kind of your bedrock, right? You need teachers. So if people are listening, what would, like I asked you, would I need to know another language? And you said,
absolutely not. No, we teach English in English. And so we, yell from the top of the roofs that we are ready to invite anybody who is interested in learning to teach English to join us. And we will give you the instructor training. We will give you the opportunity to be mentored by someone who has experience. If you've taught before, wonderful. If you haven't taught before, you may have had an experience of living somewhere where you didn't know the language. And we have found that many of our volunteers come to us with international experience in Peace Corps or working with the State Department. and therefore know what it's like to be somewhere where they weren't sure. And some of them have taught English in those countries too. But we encourage everyone to come, go through what we call a English Empowerment Center 101 session, where you'll learn a little bit about us and our various volunteer opportunities. And then based on what you're interested in, we will guide you to the further sort of training that we might be able to offer you, in addition to the mentoring that we're able to offer through the hundreds of volunteers that have been doing this with us for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you were telling me, Kathleen, I loved this, that obviously you are very good at what you're doing. You are seeing the impact you're making, but I loved that you kind of have to do your homework before you teach class, but not extensive homework, but I don't want to scare anybody away. But I just love, you were telling me about how do I explain would, could, should, things that for us just kind of come naturally at this point. And you said that you have to figure out a way to convey that. And I just loved what you were talking about.
Yes, well, I'm very good with words and very comfortable with words, but I have had to go back to research grammar several times. I had one student who said, I want to learn about if clauses. If I do this, then that will happen in the future. She wanted to be able to talk about that. So I had to go research relative clauses using if in order to be able to teach it successfully.
Because sometimes that does not, is it true? Doesn't cross-translation? It doesn't translate well?
It's true. There are some things that don't translate well. And then there's some things about English, aside from the spellings and idiosyncrasies. Just last week, we were looking at jobs and looked at a job for a produce manager, which is different from, produce and produce.
Oh.
They're spelled exactly the same. They mean two different things. So you have to explain that. Or explaining to them that a job that offers $40K means $40,000 a year, because K means 1,000. But then they say, so the benefit is I get a 401K and I get $401,000. And I said, no, their K means something different. So there are always things that I am learning that wouldn't occur to me that they are confused about. But the other thing the English Empowerment Center does so well is they every week send out information about teacher trainings online through a variety of sources, whether it's helping teach students how to word AI prompts if they're trying to look up information, to teaching grammar, to increasing speaking time for students in class. So there are constantly these resources available that, make me a better teacher, because I always have more to learn.
Absolutely. And as you were saying, they do such a good job that people shouldn't be worried about it.
Right. There are constant opportunities for learning more.
And I wanted to talk to a little bit. You did mention it, sixth grade level sometimes that we're working with, also working with people who have even medical degrees in other countries. How does that work? How and you said that they form friendships across but how does that work?
I think, Kathleen, you would.
I think because they're all in the same circumstance with the same goals. They want to learn English to improve their lives. And that may mean getting a job in a restaurant where you have to speak English, or it may mean becoming certified as a physician's assistant or a dentist or a pharmacist in this country. And so they're all in it together. And often students will help each other. Somebody who's very good, say at speaking, will work with one of the students who isn't on, a little dialogue or role play. They're very supportive of each other, which is one of the best things too. And so that's really helpful. And then because we have volunteer teachers and aides in every classroom, there's always the option of taking, say, students who struggle with reading, and they can work with an aide one-on-one for part of class or whatever it is that we can try and help them with. And we do have tutoring available also for students and other resources. So we try to address the big mix we have in backgrounds and education and ability level.
You're addressing things that sometimes people might not think about. You said they might come home with a note and not know what the teacher has written, or you brought the doctor in to talk about how to talk to a doctor. Are these the main concerns? What do you hear from the students?
I know that I hear this variety. In this country, it is okay to reach out to your child's teacher and say, this is a little bit difficult, or this is too easy for my child. What else can we do? What other resources are there? Some people come from cultures that isn't okay. Whatever the teacher says goes. Similarly, in this country, it is normal to look someone in the eyes when we speak to them. And so some of what we're teaching, I think, is also just a kind of American cultural norms, even how you might talk to your supervisor. So you're thinking very broadly about how to get the things that you need in a way that still pays respect to your own culture and your own personality, but that allows you to take advantage of some of the things that are different and maybe easier or better or worth taking advantage of here.
And have you heard instances, I would say, where the language barriers, thus that it felt to them that it was, for example, I'm thinking about in an emergency room situation, or your child is sick.
I had a student who was driving with her husband. They were on a trip out west, and he got very ill. She was afraid he was having a heart attack. They went to the emergency room, and no one spoke Spanish. And they didn't have a translator available. It was a small rural hospital, and she was terrified because she didn't have the English to explain what was happening with her husband. And we talked about that. And so that is something. Now many hospitals and even physicians' offices do have translators readily available, but often, in a situation you may not even think to ask for one. So those are things we rehearse in class. We rehearsed calling 911, about how you have to always look at where you are and know your address before you call 911, about what it means if the operator says, is the person conscious? Conscious is a word you don't run across in everyday language. Where can you take their pulse? Again, words you don't know. So we try to really deal with real life scenarios in covering the units that we cover throughout the year, about employment, about medicine, about the community. This year we've had, students get library cards for the first time, which is such a great community resource and connection. It has so many options for students in terms of things their children can do and language. So on all different levels, the teaching we do tries to cover what they need, and it's very directed towards what's going to help them reach their goals, but also integrate into the community in a way that makes them feel more comfortable and confident here.
It's wonderful to hear. Thank you for taking us inside the classroom, too. You have done a good job. And of course, you are part of the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia's grant allocations. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Receiving the grant. What does a grant like this mean for you?
The true benefit of the grants that we receive from the Community Foundation of Northern Virginia are a couple. We, first of all, really appreciate the way that they let people know about us, that they let people who want to give in this area and say to the Community Foundation, give where you think is best. And then the Community Foundation comes and picks us. So it really amplifies, the impact that we have in terms of our reputation. Additionally, so many funders these days are restricting money that they give. They want it to go to this program or that program or to see these outcomes. And we really, truly appreciate that in many instances, the Community Foundation's grants to us are kept unrestricted and allow us to use them for where we need them the most, or general operating funds.
And tell me more about that. Where does it go to help?
So, as you can imagine, many people who want to fund us want to fund our students or fund our books or but I need a database because I've got all this reporting that I need to do for the, 65 grants that I have to report on. And I have to tell you where each student is from, or how well that they did on day one in their on an English test, and how well they're doing at the end. Well, those databases take time and effort and energy and people, because I wouldn't be able to pull the right report out of our database all the time. So I have staff who are very, knowledgeable about that. So the ability to make sure that we've got the things that we need to do this work effectively and, of course, efficiently, without driving ourselves crazy, because we want to save, our best moments to be able to outlay them for the students and for our volunteers. So that sort of general operating to help us to manage the systems behind the work is really important.
Yes, because the behind the work is important. But also, you just shared with us an amazing booklet that you gave us with these wonderful essays. And can you share a little bit about about what the question is each? I just love that you all are doing this.
Absolutely. So every year we give our teachers an essay prompt. And last year's essay prompt was Learning English Gives Me Confidence. Our teachers very kindly and motivationally ask our students to write on these topics. And Kathleen was telling us earlier today that she also really makes sure that these are as much as possible written in class, because we really want the essays to be in a student's words without using, help or translation device. But we then take all of those essays and we publish them in a book. And we have a celebration every June called our annual recognition ceremony. One of the beautiful things about it is that it is not a fundraiser. It is truly a celebration of our community. We celebrate our students. We actually select a few of them who are comfortable doing so to read their essays in front of a packed room of over 200 people. Many times they receive standing ovations, and I personally think that everyone should get a standing ovation at least once in their life. But we also recognize a handful of volunteers who we call Volunteers of the Year. We recognize some of our partners who, again, Partners of the Year. So it is a beautiful way for us to celebrate the community that we have built. And by putting it all in that book, it also offers a really nice leave behind for anyone that wants to learn a bit more about us. So this year's event will be June 24th.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And as far as you just said it, but that behind the scenes and people can see what's going on. And we hope we've taken people there, but we like to leave our listeners and our viewers with a behind the scenes, or as we say, behind the curtain, look at what makes English Empowerment Center special that they might not read about on the website. Kathleen, you want to start? What is the
I would
thing?
say, honestly, it's the community, because the staff is incredible. I've been there almost 10 years. There's been extremely low turnover, which tells you a lot about the organization. The volunteers just are committed and they love it. I mean, I co-teach with other teachers, and we all always feel the same thing, that this group of students is so special. We have to up our game to do right by them. And then the next semester, oh no, we've got to up it some more because this group is so special. And then the community that forms in the classroom, as I mentioned, amongst the students who are from all over the place. I mean, I have students from Sudan, Cambodia, Honduras, El Salvador, Jordan, Thailand, and they form real friendships. And it's really wonderful to see. And that is great. And then sometimes I run into my students out in the community. I walked in the grocery store one day, and there was a woman there. She was cleaning, and she saw me and dropped her mop and ran over and said, "Teacher," and threw her arms around me. It was a former student. And so I run into people, and it's nice to see they have jobs that they're happy about and that they're feeling like they're part of the community. So it's really the community on every level that makes the English Empowerment Center so special.
Wonderful. The entire thing.
Yes.
The whole thing. I
Yeah.
just think that's so wonderful. How about you?
And I mean, I love what Kathleen said, and I would sort of take it and add connection to it. I don't think you can see that on our website in the way that you see it every minute of every day that you are engaged with us. And I'm talking about even connection on the staff in just trying to brainstorm what could be better for our students. What else do we need to be talking about or tracking, or what other feedback do we need? Sure, there is connection between us and our students and our programs, but the connection that you see day in and day out in every classroom. If you are in our office or outside our classrooms, 5 minutes before class comes in, and you see people chatting, you see people greeting each other, you see the respect that they have for each other and for their teachers and for us as staff members. I mean, in your day-to-day, that kind of connection you walk out with, and you start to treat the next person that you meet that way. And so when I use the word connection, I mean by people, but even just the way your brain connects these really positive interactions, and certainly that opportunity to lift someone up or to see them feel empowered. That is a brain connection that I think we all talk about every day that we're missing in some ways. But if you are engaged with us, you have it. You have it all the time.
So wonderful. Empowerment is in your name. We've talked about that. and community and connection. And if people, I hope that those that are listening, if they love what they hear, that they're going to share this episode. Also, your website is wonderful, and it's on. We're going to connect it with we'regood.net on our website so people can find out about all that's going on. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing the journeys and sharing the stories of the wonderful community that's going on at the English Empowerment Center.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do to help us get this message out.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and we appreciate you joining us today. Like you said, please share this episode with someone you know today. And of course, we love to say it here on the We're Good podcast, because we're good and you're good, and we can all make a difference.